Yeah, I clicked it at what?
Did you click it? Okay, mine's rolling.
Oh, I did. One.
Oh, did you? I clicked it after one. Like, yeah, I usually like listen to it and then I kind of just like edit out banter? The beginning or the ending. Oh yes, I like to leave the banter.
Do you want me to do the lead-in for this episode?
Hear the nonsense that's coming out of it.
Guys, I fixed my audio. We know. Okay, trust me. Shut up.
I think it was more mine than yours, honestly. I heard the echo of me because I'm an idiot.
Or that you live in like a really big mansion house.
Yeah, just a little one.
We could have kept the illusion going.
Maybe I do. Well, I don't have I got one cat in here today and he's been out for about 2 hours, so
one is passed out, thank God, because somebody put a quarter in her ass today and she's been attacking and like jumping on everything and she needs to sleep. Okay, it's like when you're a parent and you just need that freaking 2-year-old to go to sleep. Like,
that's why I had to, before I turned on the computer, I had to let him in so he could take his nap because that's all he's been wanting to do.
And
since
Kiddo
we've been
is
up
doing
this morning.
his weekly
He's like,
hibernation.
I want a nap. Fatty's asleep on my bag in the living room, so yeah, like when I come home and I put my bag down, I get my stuff out of it, and then he just lays on it. It's nice. Mums. It's comfy.
But yeah, welcome back to the podcast. If you made it to episode 2, well, kudos to you.
Congrats. Welcome. You get a complimentary hi and hello. We are going to go with something different than clowns this time around. We are going to be talking about kind of like historic hauntings or, famous places that are haunted. We're probably going to do a few of these in a row.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. We are kind of talking about haunted places, not so much. Whoops.
Because you can call it a historic haunting, but yes, it has history, or if it's older, but it's kind of a place though too, because you can't say like this airspace.
I'm going to be, right here, if we ever get to space in our lifetime, I'm going to be the one looking for the bubbles of space that are haunted.
You're the first ones out here.
How is it haunted though?
We'll find it.
There's nobody out here.
What's that creepy doll?
Robert?
God,
yeah.
Not Annabelle. What's the other one? The little boy? Yes.
Just like float him out to space. You know,
leave him in space. What if we just like him and Annabelle and just like shove it up into space
altogether? But do you think more people have died in space than the government's ever going to tell us? Because like, who's really paying attention?
Like, that could be a possibility. I mean, there's been already one official space crime.
There's a space
other
crime?
Than that, I don't know. Yes, you'll have to look it up, but there is a space crime about a lady and her wife. Something went back and forth. One was in space, one was on Earth, and like somehow like one was like taking money from accounts and stuff from space and like crap like that. And they were like, well, technically that's the first official space crime.
But the
like,
thing is like, so when you get back, on that? Like, you gotta come back eventually. You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna know where to find you.
Yeah, eventually you're gonna come down. You have no control over where you're gonna be, but I guess if you absolutely like want to opt out and kill yourself, you could just like
it's like literally
not put on a suit and just get sucked out into space. But just think about it. If you have the fear of falling, if you're in space, you could never really truly fall.
That's true.
You're floating. I don't know how I feel about that. I think it'd be a little creepy. I think it'd be cool at first, but then it'd start freaking me out because I realized that there's nothing technically below or above or around me that could catch me or hurt me in a sense. Unless I
I don't even physically
like to think about
somehow
space, honestly, came in contact.
Like, you see it in movies, right? Like, like the movie Alien, I like see that ship floating out there in the middle of nothing, and I'm just like, oh, that has to. Oh no.
See, I loved Alien as a kid. I was such a fan of the Alien itself because I hated, what was it, Sigourney Weaver?
You have to admit,
I
that
wasn't a
movie's
fan of
still
her as
really,
much.
like, badass.
But, like, my favorite... It's awesome. It's like Predator. I loved actual, like, Predator. I didn't care about everyone
I'm
else
a
in the movie
bad
that
horror
died.
fan
I
because
just, those
I've
are my
never seen a
favorite,
Predator
so
movie.
I'm a huge
I've
fan.
only ever seen I've seen every Alien movie out there, even Covenant, which everybody hates. I loved all the Alien movies.
Predator will
Isn't
make
Arnold
you laugh.
Schwarzenegger in it?
Yeah, it's kind of cheesy, especially the first one, because of the era. I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched it. I think he was in it. No, maybe. I don't know. Could be.
Okay, well, now that we're
Someone's
totally off
in it.
topic, let's slide into historic haunts.
Way off topic. Welcome
Some
back.
haunts from the past.
Okay, I think I'm going to
Oh,
let
I
you.
get to lead.
I'm going to let you lead first on
Take
this.
my hand. Let's
Yes, it's like a first date.
go. And where are we going? To Cleveland, Tennessee, y'all. Okay.
Nowhere.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into like the back history of Cleveland, Tennessee and everything. All you need to know is that this little girl who unfortunately died in a terrible, terrible way. Her name was Nina Craig Miles. She came from a well-to-do family. The dad made some money in the gold rush, but not in the way that you think. What he did is that he arrived there at the gold rush. He looked around and he was like, hey, all these guys got to get their supply from somewhere. So he started like exporting supplies and selling them at these ridiculous costs. So he made like a huge profit. Yeah. But like what ended up happening
Like
is
the
that
modern
his
day.
ship started getting mutinied. So needless to say, that business eventually failed, and that's how he made his way back to Tennessee. And then he started other businesses here. What they were, I don't know or care. I just know that he's a rich man, and he married a very nice lady, and they had a daughter named Nina. Now,
So, did they actually mention like how Nina dies?
So what I want to talk about is what's referred to as Little Nina's Bleeding Mausoleum in Cleveland, Tennessee. And why I find this so interesting is because we have a lot of like actual accounts of like the incident in which Nina died. So she was riding on a horse and buggy with her grandpa, and there's mixed reports whether she was driving the carriage, which she was like a kid still, so I don't know why that would have been, or if he was. Either way, the cart, they lost control of the cart. It flips, right? It flips into, conveniently, the train tracks. And, so the accident knocks the grandpa like clean off, right? He gets knocked like feet away, out of the way. But Nina didn't. She unfortunately got hit by a passing train after this dang carriage accident, and she was about 7 years old at the time.
Here's my thing. Okay, so this is way back when a lot of things were not even around. You had a whole open field,
and then like
and
you drive
managed to
your
get hit by a train.
carriage straight into the train tracks.
It's like one train coming through.
Yeah, I
girl,
mean,
you should've
granted,
just
she was
jumped
7, I
ship.
understand. And oddly enough, fun fact, we're recording this podcast on August the 5th. That is actually little Nina's birthday. Sorry if you hear my dog. She's just losing her mind for some reason.
Are we gonna go to hell because it was her birthday? She's not gonna come at me, right? Because I already had nightmares about the clowns.
I'm
like, I
sorry,
can't
Nina.
do this.
Trust me.
I'm sensitive.
I'm telling your story because I find it interesting. Also, though, I hope your ass was not driving the carriage. You were like 7.
I just imagine like you not understanding, like you already died, not knowing that forever your history goes down that you were in an open field on a carriage and you managed to get hit by the one train that was passing through.
And then your poor
probably
grandfather.
once every couple weeks. So I'm guessing the grandfather lived. He just got injured from the fall,
from what I understand. And but I don't think he lived much longer, honestly, from just sheer grief. But nobody was more grieved than like her dad, John. He didn't die. He didn't live a very long life. Sadly, he actually died from blood poisoning, which I thought was interesting. But listen, he died from blood poisoning following a fall on an icy street. Like, so, take that. He fell in the ice.
What the hell did you fall on?
But how do you die from blood poisoning?
I know, but like, how do you get blood? Yeah, that's what I want to know. But I guess maybe the minerals. I don't know. I guess back then it was a lot different. My thing is like, okay, if he was like a rich, well-off kind of guy, and he's from Cleveland, do you think he partaked in the invention of like M&Ms? Maybe, since the factory is there, and that's where it all started. The Mars.
I'm not sure.
Factory. I've heard a lot of weird stuff because I have a friend who worked there for a couple of years. She actually worked in the M&M factory. Her job was to make sure that all the weird, yeah, that too. She had to pick out all the bad ones. I was like, isn't that like millions of M&Ms coming at you? She goes,
you know what's funny?
Just try your best.
You rarely get like a fucked up M&M, so that's a job.
I actually like the weird ones, but like Jelly Belly, like they sell a bag where all like the mist weird looking ones. Those are my favorite.
Hear me out. When I was a kid, I never ate like candy that didn't look as it was supposed to. Like, so if you got like a lumpy M&M, I would throw it away because in my kid brain,
shame on
that
you.
M&M was poison. So I never
you eat this, you're gonna die.
I don't know if like that was like early onset OCD or what.
See, my childhood, like my kid mind always went to things like, okay, you know, things that were living, like a broom or something like that, or like, I don't know, weird things, like if I dropped it or knocked it over and I'd walk away from it, but I'd go back and pick it up because I felt like it had its own conscience and it was going to be upset with me, and I had this like weird mentality that everything had like its own living mind.
I didn't have a lot of them,
and I was like, I don't want it to be mad.
I would treat them with the utmost respect, but you never know.
Yes. Yes, I made sure like they were all like nice and neat. Everyone had room on the bed. Like,
well,
we will have to eventually talk about Annabelle and them,
so
because
sadly,
that's just...
too, her mom died in a weird way too. Okay, listen.
Oh my God, what's up with this family? What happened to the mom?
These are not my words, people. I am no plagiarism here.
Oh God.
It says at the age of 80. Adelia, little Nina's mom, was struck by a car while crossing a Cleveland street.
What? So the daughter gets taken out by a train. The mom gets taken out
blood poisoning
by a car. The daughter gets taken out
somehow.
by a street. From an icy street. And Grandpa just kind of dipped out whenever.
Like, lived with
sure.
like a horrible lifelong guilt after this incident. So I have a question though. Like the mausoleum, obviously, it has a little girl in it, and I looked up the pictures and stuff, and of course even the mom remarried like later. Yeah, they're all in there.
Are they all in there?
So he constructed this after John did. He constructed this mausoleum after Nina died because he wanted her to have basically the most beautiful resting place that she could. And I mean, he paid money. It was like somewhere upwards of like $40,000 to $50,000 at the time.
Which is a lot. And again, if you're new to this or whatever, I do. If you actually watch the videos, I will plug in pictures to referencing.
And it is a beautiful structure, and it's made out of this very fine, I think, marble stones. Don't quote me. Yeah, it's marble.
Yeah, I mean, it was like
very
really
beautiful,
extravagant
and he
looking. And it was like
purposely
really
bought
pretty.
the marble
and
because marble
now,
can sustain color for a long time. So, like, if you buy white marble, that marble is going to stay white. You know, it's a very pure stone, and so it was very strange when all the freaking sudden, red stains started to appear on the walls of the mausoleum.
like, so do they believe it
They
was
believe,
like from
yeah,
the little girl,
it's
like from the accident?
Yeah, they believe they're blood
Like, do they
stains.
think it was like a
and they believe
splatter?
that this is Nina's spirit inhabiting, because, you know, her whatever remains of her exist are there. So they believe that that's her spirit haunting the marble tomb. So all the blood that you see, which I'm going to be honest though, like, all of the family died pretty horribly, so who knows if it's just her.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, so when he built it, obviously the bloodstains weren't even there. So I wonder how long over time is when they appeared on the mausoleum. God, I can't talk. Like, when does it mention? Like,
It
when
was
they showed
shortly
up, or
following
when
her
people started noticing
entombment.
it, or is it
So
just
when the
there?
structure was finally complete and done, then they put her in there, and then red stains started to show up only after that. So it was kind of interesting because they've tried to remove these stains. They tried to replace the rocks. They've they've replaced the marble like several times. It's just they've never gone away. Yeah, and they actually I read somewhere else that the stains, when they would like replace a rock, and if it was like a smaller of the stains, it would come back like twice the size. So it's just very interesting because it's kind of like, was she upset that they had like taken like that from her and tried to erase sort of what happened to her?
See, like, you know, people like say, I mean, some believe it, some don't. Like, if you die in a tragic way or something, you constantly, I think, relive that moment. So I think no matter wherever the body is placed, I think that maybe it replays over and over again, and maybe that's where the blood splatter came from, like from when the train hit her. Maybe, like, somewhere in the spirit world, it's like she's replaying that moment constantly because she died such a horrific death that she can't escape it,
there's also a lot of sightings of a girl who's usually described in 1800s clothing playing in the area around the mausoleum, so they think that this is Nina too, and there's several sightings of this. It's just it's a very tragic sort of story, and it's, like I said, it's a beautiful tomb. I would personally love to go see it and pay my respects to poor Nina, who died very tragically.
I mean, we could definitely go, as long as, like, it's
and not only did the dad like build the mausoleum, but before that he had built the church that it's, you know, the graveyard's on, and the church cost him a pretty penny too, but that mausoleum cost far more than the church.
I mean, I understand that was probably his only child, I'm guessing. So, I mean, obviously, he was saddened by how tragically she had passed, and it is sad, as much as I have poked fun. But, I mean, obviously, he was trying to do something in honor of her, so he created something.
But can you imagine how creepy it must have been
at that time? Because money, $50,000 back then is like
and traumatizing
$2 million today.
To see those freaking stains show up and be like, why? Yeah, I mean, I get it.
Shit a brick. I'm not gonna lie.
Pun.
That was shit a brick.
Yeah, you're right. We're definitely gonna get our asses haunted.
Somebody.
Happy birthday, Nina. I'm sad that you died so incredibly tragically. But you do have a very beautiful resting place, and I hope that your soul has
and your
found
family
at least a little peace. But yeah, it's just interesting because it's like,
Yeah.
I remember hearing
You
about
know,
this and being
that's
like,
good.
what? Because you hear Bleeding Mausoleum and you're like, I went to like Amityville. I was like, oh shit. Like,
I mean, it's just crazy and it's sad, but yeah, it would be kind of actually interesting to go see. Like, we can make that like a mini road trip.
I've
only been to Cleveland, Tennessee one time, so
but I've never
other than that,
been.
It's so
still
small,
a really small
though.
place,
Like, you
which
just
is
don't
kind of
realize it.
interesting.
So now we're going to swing out of Tennessee just for a moment because we will be coming right back into it. But we're going to swing all the way to Portland, Oregon.
Go
for mine.
Ducks! Aren't they? Oregon?
Woo! Yes, the Oregon Ducks. So we're going to talk about the Shanghai tunnels in Portland. If you ever go there, I guess you can tour them. Obviously, currently right now, there's some restriction. But it's a whole thing. It goes quite a bit under a majority of the city, and some of the old buildings still have there's like trapdoors and other ways of how it came about. So I'll kind of just like read you off kind of a more descriptive way of the Shanghai tunnels. So it started off as a river town is what Portland, Oregon was. So obviously Portland. People, it was basically to come in, come out, drop stuff off. But at the time, it was actually considered the most dangerous port in the world because of the Shanghai tunnels. And people would stop at the port, and as people like hung out in the mini saloons and stuff like that, especially at nighttime, that's when it got dangerous. People would pick victims who were drunk or who were in a dark alleyway and stuff, and literally Shanghai these people and drop them into these tunnels, and they'd lock them up, whatever. It was mostly men, not as many women. What would they
use them for?
Basically, what the point of the Shanghai tunnels was, there were ships that would come in or ships that were leaving, say they didn't have enough men. So what would happen is that these people that they'd snuck down into the tunnel, they would drug them and like keep them out, knock them out, whatever they can do to keep them from being conscious. And like captains would pay $50 to $55 a head. So these guys would be drugged and they would bring them onto the ships, and so these guys would wake up hours later in the middle of the ocean on a ship with people they don't even know.
And a new job.
Literally all their stuff, everything gone. They were just shanghaied.
You gotta look at the bright side.
Yes.
A new job now.
So they consider, like, when they were sold, they called it blood money, because it happened, like, so often. It was considered the Shanghai capital of the world. It was said that most of the men that were, like, shanghaied were people, like, such as, like, loggers, cowboys, sailors, sheep herders, people who had, like, a trade of some sort, or, like, strong men.
You know what's funny about this?
Help produce whatever they needed.
There are similar stories in, like, Savannah, like, when we went down to Savannah, Georgia. They talked about, like, the pirate, because, they had pirates there all the time. It's a bay, city. It's a beach city. Well, they were talking about people getting shanghaied left and right there. So I can only imagine in a port as huge as, like, Portland, Oregon. I mean, that was risky.
Yeah,
why did you go drinking?
Well, and that was the thing. It was so crazy. But yeah, like I said, they were like drugged, they were beaten up, like knocked out. But they would also go places such as like opium dens. Obviously that was an easy brothels. Sometimes they'd be with some naked lady, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're snatched. And then you're being hauled ass out and dropped into a tunnel.
Next thing you know, you're a pirate.
You're like, I'm gonna get some titties.
Involuntary pirate.
Yes. And sometimes some of the, like bars and stuff, you'd walk in and say they'd walk into a certain corner and they'd be standing there and bartenders and stuff would get paid and they would pull the lever and like drop bodies through trap doors and it would just slide him down into like one of the like little
Oh my god.
like places they would lock him
Oh my
up.
God.
So that was kind of fucked up. I can only imagine just standing there holding
to
my
be
beer.
Sweeney Todd
Like, just came in from like
through the floor.
3 weeks on the ocean. Yeah. I just came in for a shave. Now it says now women, they could have fallen victim as well, but they were constantly told, especially don't be going out at night.
Well, and it wasn't very
stay away from
common
certain
back in the day for
areas
women to
and
just
whatnot
be out
because
and drinking and
yeah, they said that it was not specified, like they weren't looking for like certain women, like any specific race or anything, just any of them they could kind of lure, but they would sell them into slavery. So this could be a high class lady caught in the bad end of town, thrown into the tunnel and sold for slavery somewhere else.
Now I'm mad because I'm like,
and
Pirates of the
a lot of
Caribbean
the
being
guys,
a Disney like movie like franchise. It makes me upset because I feel like they could have done more with it if it wasn't under the Disney brand, because I would have loved to have seen a character who was shanghaied dealing with the life of a pirate when they didn't choose it. You know what I mean? That'd be an interesting character. Fight me.
yeah,
Somebody write
like
the comic.
you know, all of a sudden you're just imagine you just came off from being like on the ocean for like 3 months, and you go in, you've only had 2 beers. You somehow were kidnapped, and you wake up back on a ship in the middle of the ocean with people you've never met, and they said people who were sold on ships, it would take them sometimes up to 6 years to make it back to Portland.
And then what would they do?
Because they traveled so far, but they would try to come, I guess, or they'd earn money and somehow try to make their way back to Portland, because maybe they were from there, maybe they lived there. I mean, it kind of really is. It's really fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't imagine just going through any of that. Now it says it's been said that about a minimum of 1,500 people per year fell victim to the tunnels. So there's people literally paid to just sit there and wait for either a body to drop through the floor, or you just sneak up at night, snatch people. And I guess I'll give them credit, like they weren't like kidnapping kids.
Yeah, that we know of, but
like,
yeah, no, it sounds
that
like
we know of.
Well,
yeah.
Then again, you don't want a kid; you want able-bodied men,
and like women or whatever. But the tunnels, I mean, it goes for miles, and there's so many businesses were paid to kind of let this happen. To avoid them from, like, maybe their business being shut down or whatever. So they had to cut deals with these guys who were kidnapping these men.
I mean, not to mention, like, what do you do when you're on the damn boat?
So it was
at that point. Like,
I mean, I'm sure you're going to freak out.
But, like, what do you do? It felt like you can't, like, not work. I mean, like,
the worst.
I feel like they would stab a hoe.
Well, I mean, push come to shove, they just push you off the boat and leave you in the middle of the ocean for the sharks.
Do you think they Shanghai like an extra person?
But I can only...
in case one's unruly.
Maybe.
We'll have a backup.
Yeah, just in case that man doesn't do it, we need another. Just bring him in. But yeah, so those were the Shanghai tunnels, and now again, I'll be posting pictures kind of what other people had taken going through it. I think it would be cool to go see. We may kind of mention it again if we want to talk about other famous tunnels around the world where people have been shanghaied or killed or such. There's like a whole plethora of creepy tunnels. I have a hard time, though, because I'm always afraid, like, I'm not going to make it out, and I get lost very easily.
I wonder if people
still
like
leave a trail of Skittles or something. I would assume so.
I mean, I know, like,
I wouldn't put it
I'm
past.
just wondering if that's, like, a way that they do it. I don't know.
I mean, I feel bad if it does happen, like,
Police,
honestly, to this day.
We need research done.
So sorry, but, Yes. So that's kind of like what I found out. I mean, like I said, it was kind of actually hard to read too much because they kind of want you to go there to actually experience it more than anything. So all they know is that it started in the early early, I guess, like mid 1800s.
Like, let's be
So,
honest too.
it was
Probably
crazy
a
time
practice that
for
was brought
Portland, and-
over from, it had, because it has to have some sort of root in China or something, right? Is that where the term Shanghai comes from?
See, that's what I didn't find, because I thought maybe it would say, like, okay, like men from, like, Asia somewhere, obviously did it, but it didn't really say for me, so I don't know, maybe I was just typing in the wrong information or looking the wrong way, but I would assume yes, or maybe they were there and they learned that and they brought it over.
Yeah, you just kind of
people
wonder
who
how,
go
like,
travel
old
in
that
the world.
practice actually is. It's probably really fucked up.
Yeah, because they say about the 1800s, but it could have actually gone further back, because over on that side of the world, even the 1800s and stuff, that kind of area was still kind of newly being used, but even like, Alcatraz, it was actually used for the Civil War in a sense, like not a Civil War, but one war kind of around that era.
Right.
That's what the island was for. It wasn't meant for a prison. They just decided to put one there instead.
And I know that Alcatraz, the only reason why they made it into a
you never
prison
know.
is because it was almost inescapable.
Yeah, all the sharks, except for the 3 guys that escaped.
Yeah,
but I think
I
they
remember.
found 2,
But I have to
they
look
never
at that
found
one because that's always that's an interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to.
It is. It's
Yeah,
a lot
we'll
of
have
fun
to dig
read
into
about
that
'cause you're
one, 'cause that
like,
would be a
oh
lot
my
of
god,
fun.
though, what if they lived?
So, I think I have like 7 or 8 books about Alcatraz literally on my shelf. So those are short little stories that we wanted to go with, but now we're going to swing back to Tennessee because we're going to talk
Located
about the infamous
in
Bell Witch
Adams.
Cave that is in.
Shout out to Adams. How y'all doing out
Yes.
there? You
And
okay?
it's. Woo woo.
You okay? I don't. You're
How's your
probably safe
fam?
from the Rona, but I don't
Hi.
know about the Bell Witch. Okay. If there's one missus, I'd be afraid of. it would
She'd
the
be
Bell
happening.
Witch.
And honestly, I would too, because the story, the legend itself, because I say legend or story, but I think
A lot
it
of this
pretty much
is
has the same
historically
terminology.
recorded.
You can
everybody's
still go
aware.
see it to
We
this
actually
day.
have a lot of documentation about the Bell Witch and the encounters, including from sources like what's his face, Andrew Jackson. Is that who I'm thinking of? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about how he
Not that I
he kind of
blame-
came in
I
and
guess
dipped
I
out
don't
really
blame him.
fast, but he was there. I think first we're going to start off with kind of telling you the story of what happened. I don't know if you want me to just read the
No, you can
story,
read
or
it,
do
and
you
then
want
if I
me
have a
to?
note, I'll
Do you just
just-
want to kind
I'll
of
scream at you.
plug it right in?
I'll just be like,
This is how organized we are. All right. All right. So the legend has it that John Bell and his family strolled into Tennessee from North Carolina. They perched over 300 acres in a quiet area. They were members of the Red River Baptist Church, and over time, John became a deacon. According to neighbors and friends, they became very prosperous and whatnot. So I think not only from the church, but I think from the land itself. About 10-15 years passed and everything was running smoothly. They're living their happy lives, doing what they do. And it was in the summer of 1817 is when it said there was a turn for the worst for the Bell family. Apparently some members of the Bell family started seeing strange animals amongst the property, things they've never seen before, strange colors,
let me break
all
in for-
that.
There is a theory,
when the family
I'm
would
gonna
go
put
to...
this out there at the forefront
Yeah.
for you guys. There is, I read somewhere that there is a theory the Bell Witch is actually a skinwalker, which isn't too far out of the realm of possibility, considering that most land, especially in the Americas, was taken away from native tribes. So it is very, it's an interesting thought for some people to think that maybe the Bell Witch was a skinwalker, and the animal sightings and the weird lights and colors that the family was seeing seems to point to evidence of that, and also just the viciousness of the haunting itself. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in because I read that somewhere and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that would be terrifying if that's the case, because there's a lot of things I won't mess with, and skinwalkers is one of them.
Yes. Okay, so so they started seeing strange animals, but when the family would go to bed, they would hear like knocking sounds and stuff. It started outside of the house, like little taps on the windows, the doors, or whatever, and then eventually over time it increased and came inside the house. And that's when it kind of actually, for me, this sounds really creepy, and I'd be scared as hell. It was claimed that they would start hearing sounds of rats gnawing at their bedpost, but there was no rats there. They would hear chains, like heavy chains being dragged across the wood floor. And they would also hear like little stones being like tossed and thrown and dropped on the floor as like someone was walking through the house. And then there was like eerie sounds of someone gulping and being choked. They would hear it, but there was no one there. Yeah,
not the choke me daddy.
Not that. So the family told everyone about these mysterious happenings. You know, people around town, friends, neighbors, all that. It started to travel and experience the haunting. Yeah, they wanted to come like hear it and see it for themselves. To me, yeah. See, now people are going to come in. I would turn that to like a B&B. Be like, hey, you want to listen? Want a trip? I got something for you. Here's some breakfast. Enjoy your stay. But to correct myself, they actually let all that crap happen for about a year before they started telling everyone how it happened and what was happening.
That's a long time.
So why would you wait a whole year?
2020 started
to be tortured.
January. Look at where we are now. Can you imagine being this long haunted by without telling anybody?
I mean, and that's the thing. So I wouldn't let that happen for a year because I know I just couldn't handle it.
Like rats.
That's
a very specific sound.
Like a wood.
Like that's why it's like.
Yeah, I feel like that. I don't know. I can't do it. Yep. I think so. Okay. So now the Bell family gets gutsy and starts asking the mysterious force to ident itself. So now they're like, hey, like, who are you?
New house, who dis?
Fam, what are you doing here? Who dis? And as expected, it didn't go well. They asked for its name. It changed it every time. So, like, who are you? Like, Susan. Next time, like, who are you?
We'll just go through all, like,
I don't know, somebody.
Privileged names. Who are you? Karen.
Karen. If Karen's haunting me, I'm leaving. I will burn the house down.
She's throwing a receipt in your face.
Fuck you, Karen. Fuck you. I want to talk to your manager.
You hear that echoing down the hallway every day.
Oh my god. I would never live with myself. So they were trying to talk to it and stuff, and then one day they had a breakthrough and told him that it was the witch of a neighbor named Kate Batts, Batts, Batts. So side note, I know it's not spelled correctly like a normal bat, but to me, like bats, they live in caves, and it was like the Bell's witch cave, but they were like, we don't know where it lives.
Probably like you guys gotta pick up the context.
That was just my thought. Yes. So obviously, that's where it was hiding, yada, yada, yada. And so everyone, but after stating who it was, they started calling it, so I gotta turn the page, the Bell's Witch. Kate apparently wanted to kill John Bell for an unknown reason. She never stated why, but she wanted that man dead. And the only other option to why she was there was to stop John's daughter Betsy from marrying the neighbor boy named Joshua Gardner. So I don't know what's wrong with Joshua, but she.
Girls, you gotta get to this level. Yes. You gotta get to haunting him. You gotta get.
But like, imagine living such a peaceful life, and someone comes and just like fucking torments you and just says you're gonna die and you're not gonna marry that boy, and like that's it. Like, those are the only two terms why it's there. Nothing else it could ever think of in the world. But
of like her smacking the shit out of this girl, and you're kind of wondering like, is she mad though, or is she just trying to slap some sense into her? What's going on? Personally, we need to look more at Joshua Gardner.
So,
what was he doing?
Yes, I will actually tell you a little bit about
so
Josh Gardner, because I did find some stuff. Yes. So, Psycho Kate, for the next 3 years, tormented the family. But unfortunately, John and Betsy obviously got the worst of it. You know, like Betsy, like you said, she got her hair pulled, whatever else. And for some reason, she was sticking, like, literal pins in her, like a voodoo doll. Like, yeah. So, people would hide her pins when Kate would come around. I did parentheses there.
Yeah,
you
sorry,
can't see
y'all
it, but
can't
I'm
see
on
my
video.
face, but I was like,
Yeah. So now John, on the other hand, like, suffered from his throat swelling, like randomly it just swell up. He said it felt like there was a stick sitting like horizontal in his throat, like blocking and like pulling. It was like I can only imagine what that actually felt like. Sitting sideways in his throat, and uncontrolled facial muscle, like
maybe
facial
he just
muscles,
had a
like
neuro
twitching
issue.
and jerking. So, like, he had like little. See, that's what I was thinking. Like, out of nowhere, like, I don't know, his face would start twitching and whatnot. He had like no control. So due to the attacks on John, it caused him to be weaker and weaker. More people took interest in Kate. Turns out that like, she was quite intellectual on certain things, not everything, but she was actually really smart. She knew a lot about the Bible, people's
she was also
past
very
and future. She would constantly tell people things that would happen.
Talk. There is no like Ghost
she was
Adventures
friendly in a way,
here,
and it was
guys.
really
like,
weird.
Literally, like, this is what Ghost Adventures would love to happen: is just a ghost just chatting it up.
Just hanging out, yeah. And then it said, and somehow she was able to be in two places at one time. There's two separate churches. There's a Methodist and a Baptist church, and she was known to actually be at both during the sermons and stuff. And I will actually go a little more in depth about that once I'm done reading this, because it's kind of funny. So, on December 20th, 1820, John Bell died, and it was believed he was poisoned. I call her Creepy Kate. Took full credit for his death. 3 months later, in March of 1821, Betsy actually broke off her engagement to Joshua Gardner.
She slapped enough sense
So,
into her.
now the witch has completed. Well, I think she got scared once her dad died. She's like, "Oh, like, this bitch is serious. Like, I gotta fucking break it off."
Yeah, it would be
So,
weird.
I mean,
if,
I would
I've been
too. I'd be like,
haunted
"All
for,
right,
like,
sorry, we
25
can be
years," and
friends.
then finally, like, she shows, like, I will, though. I will.
Then all of a sudden, just like, bam. So, Kate felt she was successful and told everyone she would
very
return in
specifically
7 years. So she just up and just left. Nobody saw her. 7 years. And then in 1828, she returns and speaks to John Bell Jr., you know, his son, obviously. Talks with him about his past, present, and future. So she would go in depth with conversation. Like, she wasn't there to harm him. She just talked to him, like, as if it was
Now,
like
it's
a
theory
distant
that she only
relative or a
came back
friend.
just
It
to
was
make
really
sure things
odd.
were in order, and that Betsy didn't. Joshua, and
Go back to
it's very I'll throw
Joshua.
this in there too, at least in a biblical sense. I know that the number 7, or in I guess other religions, the number 7 is a number of completion. So, which explains why after this encounter, the Bell Witch has never been really heard from.
Yeah. Yeah. She admitted finally to him that there was a reason to why she killed their dad, but she said she would not tell him why. So Kate disappeared with that information, I guess. Homegirl decides to leave and said then this time she would return again in 107 years. That's a long time. So if you calculate that from then, that would be 1935. I did the math for you. Due to the strange happenings around the Bell Witch Cave in Adams, Tennessee, they believe she actually technically never left. She remained there the whole time because they had a lot of instances happen since she said she left and would come back, and they can't explain it, but they all assume it's Kate herself. And that's pretty much like the legend of itself. There's a lot of other minor things I do have written down too that are kind of fun, but that was it. Like, this whole family was tormented and whatnot.
But she was
no
very
reason
vicious
to be attacked,
too,
but
specifically John and
Homegirl.
Betsy. Which a lot of people think is like really interesting, that the whole family, like, you know, experienced stuff, but the two she really was vicious towards was those two.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think I felt bad more is because of John. Some believe that John actually knew the reason why she was coming after him. Like, there was something that he didn't say or tell someone, but she knew about it. But they could never figure it out. They have no idea to why she picked him in particular. But I do actually have some information on the actual Kate Batts, the neighbor, that was actually a living person that was not the witch. I don't know. They named it after her, but this lady was different. It says Kate Batts obviously was a real person. She was a neighbor of the Bell family. It was said that Kate and John had a violent quarrel not long after the Bell family just moved. So a lot of people believe Kate was a witch in the area, but they didn't really chance
especially
it, I guess.
Like during this time,
you know, they were so scared that they were like, "Oh, don't make it around."
Yeah, witch
like,
hunting
yeah,
wasn't
like
totally
early 1800s.
out of the sphere of things,
I mean,
but it was also, it wasn't happening in the sense that people were going out witch hunting and killing people at this point. That you kind of just kept your distance from these social outcasts.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And they said that the locals always believed she was more than likely the witch. She had a habit of begging for pins from all the women. She would constantly just ask for no reason, like, "Do you have pins I can have?" Which kind of, when they thought about Betsy with the pins, they were like, okay, so they would constantly hide them from her. But it was never proven if Kate Batts and the spirit were actually connected. They don't know if it was her, because I guess whatever spirit they saw did not look like the actual Kate. So they just gave her the name because they assumed it was her, like an alter ego.
I was going to say the doppelganger.
So supposedly,
it didn't look like her. Maybe you just liked your name.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, they think it has something relation. Maybe she sold her soul,
she took
things
the
like
name
that.
as
Like,
a,
things
kind of
like
slap
made
in
an
the face to
agreement.
John, as like, this is why I'm haunting you.
Because she argued. Yeah, maybe here's my theory is, like, say this witch was real. I don't know. Maybe Kate knew about her and had her own thing that happened with it, but maybe she came in terms and agreement to it.
Maybe.
And maybe that's why it left her alone. So I don't know. It says the Bell Witch was supposedly attending, obviously the two churches and stuff, but in that time when the witch would appear, the odd twist was that she was obviously seen in both of them, but she would make herself look, or like mask herself and her voice, and she would mock the sermons of both, like, the pastors and stuff of the churches in front of everybody. And she would do it to their faces. Like, she just straight up. I don't know, but she had no fear, and she would just do it to their faces and mock them in front of all these people, and nobody would stop her because everyone was terrified. Like, you can imagine this crazy person. You say, this guy has a deep voice. She could mimic that voice, and I was like,
I'm not
that's
down
some
for
scary
that.
shit. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. No, not at all. So I also found, upon reading different sites, I found that the witch was kind of, I guess, bipolar. and it considered itself as 5 different spirits at one time. So, and I'll let you know. So there was Kate, who was considered the delicate one and sounded very feminine. Obviously, it was the most common one seen. The second one was called Black Dog. It had a harsh feminine voice, so like very raspy, like
you
very
can tell
rough,
it's a female, but it's got
kind
like
of voice. The next one,
like a smoker's like down to it.
like, yeah, like I imagine, like, you know, like the lady from like SpongeBob, like, wanna buy some chocolate, you know, something like that. The next 2 were called Mathematics and Cypocry. I can't spell it. CYPOCRYPHY. I cannot talk. You know me in words, I suck. They were also considered delicate feminine voices, but they kind of had like a cruel intention. So they were kind of a little twisted. And then, but last but not least, the last one was called Jerusalem. Yeah.
Oh my
and it
God.
sounded like a boy. Like a young boy. And it says, I guess Kate, like, was the Bell family's, like, constant companion. Like, that's the one they saw the most. But the other 4 would come and go, terrorizing the family. So, like, all the noises and everything that was happening were the other spirits haunting the family. So it went from, it was just her, and then her being in 2 places, all of a sudden she was like
That's
5 people.
yeah,
So
no.
I thought that was crazy because I actually never knew that. And so when I found that out, I thought that was really cool because I've never heard anyone talk about it before. So that's like, I dug really deep on that one because I've never heard other people mention it. So I thought that was so
Joshua
cool.
Gardner as to like why she may not have liked him.
He came from kind of like a higher end, kind of rich family. He was really, you know, everyone knew the family. They were kind of well off, but they were really kind. And it says, you know, he's from one of the best families in the county, and he was regarded as an excellent young man. But lo and behold, Kate hated his ass. And it wasn't I think part of the hatred is because I think maybe the Bell family was starting to become well off, and he was already well off. And I think she was maybe worried about something with that, but she just did not want to allow. But I think it was his kindness that bothered her. From some area I read that someone thought maybe it was because, you know, he was very involved with the church. Maybe something to do with the religious aspect of why she couldn't stand him. So that was kind of odd. Like, I thought it was really strange. Like, why do you hate this guy? Like, he didn't do anything to you. He didn't even live on the property you're on.
About him she did not like.
Leave him alone.
That's kind of funny. Like, it's just funny that
Yes.
it's like specifically like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, it's like walking into the mall and you've never seen any of those people before, but you see the one guy just like eating a snow cone, and you're like, fuck you.
And then you like go and try
like,
to ruin his
we all gonna hate you.
Like,
yeah, you go smack the snow cone of his hand, take the ring and run off. Like, alright, everyone hate him.
yeah, the amount of times that Betsy got smacked by the witch it's just hilarious. Yeah, like, she wasn't physically violent to most of the family.
Like, but I'll give her credit.
Like, she beat the shit out of her.
See, I expected, like, her to attack John like that, you know, him being a guy, or not necessarily that, but, you know, like a big, strong guy. Like, you think you're like, oh, you want to, like, beat him down, blah, blah. No, you just, like, choked him out. Like, that's cheating. This poor little girl, you know, she's just madly in love with this boy, and you're like, I'm going to stab you with needles and smack the shit out of you.
What do you do to you? Like,
why? Also, of course, she went by Betsy, but her actual name was obviously Elizabeth. But she married a guy named Richard Powell and was forever left alone by the witch. She never bothered her again. She ended up passing away in 1888 at the age of 86. So Betsy didn't make it to the 1900s. And they said that all of the descendants of the Bell family claim to this day that they still have strange encounters with the witch. One of them in particular actually owns like the morgue or whatever in Adams, Tennessee, which is really bad. He's part of like 2 businesses.
Yeah,
but
you
like,
are.
why would you do that? You're just asking for trouble. I know when they did the episode of Ghost Adventures, they actually got that guy in particular to go to the farm with them. Which, now, I have pictures of, I guess, what the house looked like, but the original houses were knocked down. So the houses there now were rebuilt, I think, as replicas of what was there, because the kids, after the youngest girl died, because Kate was actually obsessed with the youngest daughter. So that was the only one she was friends with. When that little girl got sick, she used to bring her food and candy to try to get her to eat, because nobody could get her to eat. Like, she actually took care of her, which is really odd. So when Lucy died and the rest of the family had the property, they decided to kind of divide things up, but they knocked down the houses.
That I did know.
Because there was like
that
2 like cabin
they're not
homes.
the original homes.
They knocked them all out.
So yeah, isn't that why they say like she mostly occupies the caves now? But she doesn't really come out.
Because that's the only original part of it left, is obviously some of the trees and stuff like that. But I just want to know, honestly, it didn't say too much, but why she was obsessed with Lucy and why she wanted to be friends with her and take care of her, but yet she was so forceful and angry towards the rest of the family.
The family's very involved, obviously, in the church and whatever. Maybe somebody said something to her, or did something to her, and that's why she started this. Maybe whatever was said, or maybe they called her a witch. I'm just saying, maybe they evoked that. I don't know. I'm not blaming the family for it, but like, you gotta wonder, why them?
Yeah, there's so many, and I think honestly they'll probably never know. But a lot of like mediums and stuff.
Now, Kate did not
all the time try to go up there and try to figure it out. The cave is barred up though. Yeah, well, I guess if you visit though, if you go into the cave, I'll post a sign actually showing the sign that you see, kind of entering at your own risk. They're not responsible for what happens, but there was incidents like such as a boy and his family walked into the Cave of Curiosity. He was wearing a cap. The cap flew off his head and went up so high, but it was just sitting there, like someone just put it like on a shelf, and they couldn't get it back. There's an instance like a couple of years back, three or four guys in the military were there just trying to kill time. They were there visiting, and one guy got knocked down and was starting to be choked out, and they couldn't figure out why. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff, some good, some bad. A lot of people, sometimes I guess it has fun with people. Sometimes it's like really hateful towards people.
Like back in the day that come to the house. Because like, okay, I know at one point they were so terrified to be in the house by themselves, they invited that other family to come stay with them. And that other family was like, hell no. Like, they stayed there, they experienced all the same stuff, and I think that they were like horrified by it.
Well, with Betsy, her friends used to have to stay with her, and even though the witch knew they were there, the witch would only torment Betsy still. They left her friends alone. They just straight up was like, Betsy's getting her ass beat in the corner, and her friends are just sitting there brushing their hair. Like, Betsy, I don't know what's going girl. On. Something. I will say this. Okay, so we're going to mention about the Andrew Jackson thing, because obviously...
Disclaimer.
I forgot to put it in there. It's really short. Quick. Okay, so the
Andrew Jackson was a piece of shit. Continue. He deserved this.
Yes. I believe this... from I'm obviously terrible with numbers and history right now. I think this was actually before he became president when he went there. So this is all right before. He's kind of a dick. So he hears what's happening, right? And so he's like, okay, we're gonna go experience this. We want to go see this witch, whatever. Well, he was gonna take a group of guys with him, just a small group, like 10 guys or whatever. One guy in particular says, I can get rid of the witch. I can kill it. I can get, this thing will be gone. Let me go with you. So Andrew's like,
witch hunter over
okay,
here.
cool. Like you're in the squad. witch hunter for one night. So they travel all the way there. They're there, and now they're in the home. You know, they got to tour the cave and everything. So now they're sitting in the living room of the Bell's family home, and so John's in there. He's talking with them, and they're waiting. The witch is like, they're right when they're arriving. They said, "Hey, we want you to come to us. Whatever, blah blah blah. We want to talk to you." The witch goes, "Okay, but I'll come back tonight." You know, obviously she got shit to do. She might have to go shopping. You know? No one knows.
I have things to do.
Obviously, you got stuff to do. So what happened was, Mr. Braveheart, the guy, not Andrew Jackson. So they visit the farm. Obviously, as they're waiting, the one man who said they can get rid of it, well, the witch shows up,
he was
finds out
shit.
this guy said he can get rid of her. He kind of... Homeboy was talking smack, and I think he learned his lesson because, you know, so he had a gun. He put a silver bullet like it was a fucking vampire.
Or is that all monsters? What was his plan? To shoot the ghost?
I guess. I don't know. I was like, I would have had like a wood stake as backup. Well, he went to go fire the gun. The gun would not go off. She said, "Try again," as she laughs in his face. So he tries to fire it again, and again, and again, and again. It's not going off, and she's just laughing. Well, Andrew Jackson and them are kind of like laughing because she's kind of making it like a funny joke. And then she proceeds to take the gun and then just smack the ever-living shit out of him, beat him up in the living room, and they're all just standing around watching his... Andrew Jackson and the rest of his squad are watching this guy get his ass beat, and the lady finally stops, and they're all laughing hysterically. The guy gets up and literally runs back to Nashville, because Adam's right above Nashville, in case you don't know. And so he leaves in the middle of the night. Homeboy just like, fuck it, whatever, you're on your own. And so the next day, John Bell was like, "Hey, why don't you guys stay longer?" You know, I think he felt the comfort of more people. But Andrew Jackson's like, "Nah, I seen enough. That's cool. It's not my problem." And he just marched back to Nashville. He's a fucking I'm out.
By his own gun. But okay,
yeah. Imagine just getting bitch slapped by your own weapon, but you can't physically fight back whatever the hell it is.
Men with his big old gun, he gonna fight the witch. Like, boy. You deserve to get pistol whipped.
I'm gonna get her.
That was just stupid.
And that was the story of the one evening Andrew Jackson actually went to the Bell Witch cave, and it was just crazy. And we passed by on a trip a couple years back, and we couldn't get the rest of our party to agree to pull over, and we were so upset because when we told them what was happening there, they said nope, and they said fuck it,
absolutely fucking not.
Yeah, he's scared though. So I still haven't gone yet, but hopefully in my next trip to Nashville,
we're planning to take a trip there eventually anyway.
Yes. Yeah, I think it would be like one cool, fun thing. I do have one person in particular who does not believe in this kind of crap, so I want to bring him with us.
Even it would be cool to see the replica house and everything, because I hear the property is actually really pretty. It's just yeah,
from the photos it looks gorgeous. I'm like, God, this is beautiful. But then I was like, shit's about to go down. No. Yes,
there are two kinds of people in this
I'm bringing
world.
Candles. I got glow sticks.
I mean, I think as long as you're nice to Kate, I don't think she cares if you come in her cave, but...
Now, I suggest if you're clairvoyant, that's probably not the best place to go.
Man.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, would I like to see her in human form? Maybe from a distance, though. From a distance, like, hey, I just want to give you like an air
now
high
that brings
five,
up a question for me.
But don't come near me. I just want to say I respect you.
Silver Bullet Billy over here. Did he? They never saw the witch though, physically, correct? From what I understand, they're only auditory sightings.
Okay, so there was two kinds. Well, see, that was the thing. I've read like 3 different areas where one of them said they saw a physical form, but like I said, it did not look like the actual
I was just wondering
Kate that
if he was like shooting at the air. Like, what was he gonna do?
But see, I think, but other people said it came as like an apparition, and then there was another that said, no, you couldn't see it. You can only feel and hear the presence of what it was. So, I think asking locals, they'll probably say one thing or another, or say they experienced something or another, but I'm not sure truly how they ever saw it.
Most descriptions of apparitions, like you can see through them, your typical ghost shit. What did he think that bullet was going to do, though?
If it was an apparition, like, what the hell are you going to pierce? You're going to just break the dude's window, and I would piss.
And I like the image of John just on standby, just, like, watching all this go down. Like, I'm like, okay.
That was probably the only night he actually never got tormented, honestly. Because I think, in a sense, she wanted to entertain, and she wanted to do this whole ideal. Because the thing is, people are saying we're having conversations with her, and they said, like, groups of people would come to, like, see or hear her. So she almost kind of created, like, it's like going to Vegas and seeing Britney, bitch,
seen, any, like,
like, it was like a whole show.
It was a hoax of any kind, so it kind of lends credence to the whole thing, because one, people don't know how they would have faked a lot of what happened.
And that's the thing, and there's a lot of things and writings from that era that were actually written about these instances. So it was something that happened to more than one person, and everyone knew about it. But I know it's considered one of the most haunted places in the United States.
I don't think the Bell Witch is one of the oldest ones. I don't think people that's like the first thing they think of when they think of like Tennessee.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it. I mean, obviously, I didn't learn about it until
I learned about it from a movie
here, but it's so cool.
A very bad movie.
Well, yeah, there's a couple films on the Bell Witch. You can watch it. Some are just kind of entertaining to watch, and kind of gives you a general idea of like what we explained.
Netflix.
Yes.
We had Comcast. We were fancy. We had Comcast on
VHS.
demand, which means that you had access to a bunch of free, often shitty movies. And I always...
And they showed like the same movie on 3 of the channels, like for 3 hours straight.
And I watched some of the funniest shit on that on demand. But one of them was this movie about the Bell Witch. Can I tell you what the movie is? No, I don't remember. I just remember laughing my ass off the whole time because it was so bad. Because it was a found footage style film about the Bell Witch. I was like, what?
I mean, I would say, it's such an interesting story. So, Google around. They have a website for when you actually want to go visit it. There's a lot of other sites that talk about it too.
Do like a Netflix series about the Bell Witch. I think that'd be so fun. I would watch the shit out of that.
I totally watch that. I mean, I can make a really bad version and post it
like the pistol
with like stick people.
Of Silver Bullet Billy.
Yeah, and see, like, a lot of that I didn't know until I was reading, and like, you bought me that book and stuff, so I've read that and everything, and it's just like, there's things that goes in depth that you never find on the internet, so it was just like, what?
Popped out, honestly. It was on, I kid you not, I was at McKay's, which is a bookstore, if you're not familiar. It's a used bookstore. And I turned the corner, and it was in the middle of the freaking aisle. Yeah. So I was like, hey, it's about the Bell Witch. I was like, that's cool. And it looked like it had never been like read or opened or anything, so I just grabbed it. Yeah.
It looked brand new. Like, no. Maybe someone like freaked out. They're like, I'm not reading this.
I also saw Furby there one time, and I was like,
but I would. Oh my god!
We're gonna talk about.
We'll talk about haunted toys because I got a story about Furby for you. Ooh, there's so much I can say. But I think, like, I want to hear your thoughts, or if you actually been there, or if you know of a place maybe you'd like to hear about, that would be really cool. Maybe we can talk about it one day. Something we don't know, please let us know, because I would love to.
It's kind of ingrained into us because our grandparents would take us on these vacations, and most of where we stopped at, like, we didn't, like, I don't get kids nowadays, like, we didn't do the beach or like amusement parks, or like, we did like historical things, like we would just go to a bunch of monuments.
I can't tell you how many, like, actual, like, caves and, like, battlefields and museums and everything, and I still love to read and everything else. I still like buying books. I buy a lot of books. History. I have lots of books.
Like, I like and eat history up for breakfast.
Yes, and so, like I said, let us know if if you've actually been there. That'd be awesome. Please tell me your experience if so, or just tell us like something you experienced, or
we always
a place you want us to
and also
talk
again,
about.
Happy birthday, Nina. Shout out to Nina.
Happy birthday! This is for you.
Hopefully
homegirl.
At peace.
Number one.
in her very beautiful mausoleum.
Yes. But thank you for coming by. Hope you had fun listening, and stay tuned for the next one. Bye.